Hello and welcome to the Amateur Skeptics Podcast, number 73. I'm your host, Brian. Joining me this evening, Ian.
Bum, bum, bum. Here I am. Hello.
And as always, Mac/Sean.
Not always.
Not always?
Not always.
Which part? Are you not always Mac/Sean or not always here?
Do I have to choose?
No, never mind. Kimberly is also joining us this evening.
I am here without theme music, unfortunately. I need to work on that.
Yeah, theme music. We should all have our own theme music.
Okay, I'm going to use the Green Hornet.
All right, we can take that in post. Okay. Just cut that right out of there. How is everybody doing this evening?
I'm doing all right.
Everybody survived Thanksgiving?
Yeah, survived it quite well, in fact. How about you?
Oh, I survived it. You know, surviving Thanksgiving is not the problem. I just have this huge impulse to run out and shop the next day that I have to suppress.
Okay. So how badly did you do on the whole Black Friday thing?
Oh, are you kidding? I didn't leave the house.
I went out for one item, and I got that one item, which was season 7 of Supernatural, $10, good price.
Yeah, that is.
And then I went to Walmart to go shopping for like some household stuff. I get to Walmart. There is a huge. There's like 75 people. Sorry, go ahead.
You went to the Colfax one.
I did. There's like 75 people out there protesting Walmart in general.
Actually, I think it was over 100 is what the news was saying.
What were they protesting for?
Well, see, I don't know that. I don't understand. I don't know. They handed me a flyer and said, here, this will help you understand why we're out here. And I looked at the flyer, and I handed it back to the girl, and I said, I'm sorry, this actually doesn't help me at all. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, it's all in Spanish.
No,
and
really?
That is not a language that I happen to speak.
It was all in Spanish?
Yeah, she was kind of embarrassed. She's like, well, some of them are in English and some are in Spanish.
Well,
I'm like, well, this one is definitely in Spanish.
You are in America. Speak Spanish.
Yes.
Wow. So you have no idea why they were. Ian, you don't know either?
It was unionizing, going into the wages and stuff. The fact that Walmart pays substandard wages. The argument's been going on for a while, but it's gotten kind of hostile recently, especially with the employees being forced to come in on Thanksgiving because now they do the free Black Friday stuff where they actually have a whole bunch of deals Thanksgiving Day, and that's one of the main things that got this whole thing started.
They're opening the stores now like at 9 and 10 o'clock, right?
Well, I thought they did anyway. I thought 10 o'clock was kind of their normal time.
Well, if it's a supercenter, it's open 24/7.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, they keep I haven't dealt with the Black Friday stuff since I worked there, but my understanding is now the Black Friday stuff is actually out there on the floor already because it's still open the whole night. They don't actually, I don't even think they close at all now for Thanksgiving. It used to be they closed Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now I think they only close Christmas. The whole rest of the year they are open, and I don't think there's any special hours. But so now they actually have to have security guards watching over the Black Friday stuff so no one gets into it until the official time. And some of the stuff I've been seeing, I mean, it's getting more and more messed up over to what they're allowed to do. And like I said, my understanding is everyone's required to work Thanksgiving no matter what now. And that is a big part of why the new what Mac saw was going on. That's the fuse that really got it started.
Well, and one of the things they seemed to be complaining about was also that they weren't getting enough hours and they weren't getting any benefits because they weren't getting enough hours, too. So
there's a lot of games going on with all that.
I think that they could benefit from a union, for sure. Seems like their situation seems like it would definitely work. And they would have a hard time just closing up shop if a union came in. I mean, it would be hard for them to just close down everything. But that probably would be done state by state, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's only how the unions work.
Well, I mean, okay, so compare that to what happened with Hostess.
Yeah, well, Hostess was blaming the union, but the fact was the company was being ran into the ground beforehand, doing some really stupid stuff, and I don't blame the unions one bit, because if you look at what happened, the CEOs and all the top executives got these huge raises after the union people already said, yeah, we will take a cut. You know, the union people had taken a paid cut, took a benefits cut, because, you know, they wouldn't help the company out. Then the CEO and all the top executives get triple salary, and it's like, yeah, sorry, you want us to negotiate now when you're playing those games?
So what's going to happen in their situation?
Hostess?
Yeah.
The recipes will be bought out by other companies. Twinkies will be back, people. Don't worry about Twinkies being gone. Twinkies cupcakes. They will all return.
I've got 6 cases on eBay right now.
But it's just like Mother's Cookies went through this a few years ago. What happened was Mother's Cookies went out of business. Keebler, who's actually Kellogg's, bought the recipes and the rights to make the cookies. And guess what? It took, they were out of the market for a little while, but not too long. All the Mother's Cookies are back on the market now, and that's the exact same thing that will happen with all the Hostess products. Give them, there will probably be a gap. Some people may not have Twinkies for a few months, but in the end, the Twinkies will return. I have no doubt of that.
Oh, and the chocolate-filled ones too, right?
Don't know. Those were special, ones. Those aren't the regular. So it all depends on how popular those were, I guess.
Well, one can hope.
It sounds like they did the kind of Bain Capital thing to Hostess. This loading up the debt.
Yeah, that's exactly
what.
Yeah, if you look at it, that's exactly what happened, and that's the type of political game.
But will somebody buy out that bakery facility and use it, or is it just going to go away?
That I don't know. That depends on the company that buys it out, I guess.
Because
but the recipes will be there, and that means that some of the people that lost their jobs are probably going to still be needed because, hey, we need people that know how to bake the stuff.
Right. And, well, I mean, a lot of people were put out of work all of a sudden. I mean, that was huge.
Yeah.
And just right before Christmas, so it was the Christian thing to do. Happy holidays.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry, I killed that one. My fault. Let's have the announcements.
All right, your announcements. Let's see. We have got coming up on Wednesday, November 28th, I guess the day this comes out, the Denver Atheists are celebrating 10 years as a meetup. With over 1,100 members. We're having our 10-year anniversary social that night. I'm going to be there for sure, and it should be a lot of fun. It's really staggering to me that it's been around for 10 years. On Saturday, December 8th, the Denver Atheists are hosting Counter Apologetics. We did the first meeting a few weeks ago at Pints, and pretty good, very intellectual, kind of trying to figure out what direction it's going to go in. We're going to be reading a thing and kind of discussing how to do counter apologetics with it. So that should be good. The following night on December 9th is the Secular Light Celebration with the Humanists of Colorado. And let's see, Sunday, December 16th, Atheists for Humanity is going to be doing YouTube night number 3. It hasn't been posted yet, but I've been assured that that's going to be the date for it. If you've been to the other ones, that's a really good time. On Wednesday, December 19th, the Boulder Atheists are doing How the Christians Stole Christmas as part of their Atheist Classroom program. And then we have Saturday, December 22nd, the Freethinkers of Colorado are hosting their Mayan Survivor Party down in Colorado Springs.
Which I will be at. I'm going.
Is that the next season of Survivor, the Mayan Survivor?
The Mayan Survivor.
I think they did like Fiji Islands or something.
Well, the problem with Mayan Survivor is that they had to do actual sacrifices.
You get voted off, you're the next sacrifice?
That's right. Well, can you imagine?
That show.
Yeah, Hawaiian Survivor.
I'd watch that one too.
Throw them in the volcano. All right. So last week we took some time to and we gave some things of what we thought could be these unidentified flying objects. But luckily, Rocky Mountain Paranormal has gone through and done a much better job than we ever could have.
The investigative journalist who was doing the story, they actually investigated what was going on.
No, like we said last week, they said, "Hey, look, we have a news piece," and they stuffed it in somewhere. They didn't care whether they could explain it or not. They didn't even try. They just wanted to have a UFO story.
Yeah. That's exactly what it felt like.
And I don't know how well it did for them. I mean, did they get big? I mean, normally these kinds of things will draw people in. This one was so bad, I wonder if it really drew in a crowd the way that they were hoping it would.
Yeah.
Did they get the viewer response that they were hoping for?
And I saw some comments about it. Needless to say, a lot of people claiming, "Oh, look, yes, it's proof we have UFOs." Ha! How are they going to cover this one up?
Right. Well,
technically, it is still a UFO.
Right, it is, yeah. But Brian and Baxter go through a long series here of stuff it could be. And one of the things that they did that is like so cool, that is like pretty damning to the whole idea that it's some big object, is they put and this was one of the things on Skeptic's Guide to the Universe that they had suggested. I don't know if that's why Brian and Baxter did it, but was to put a sheet or something between the camera and so far away, and they caught something there too. So it's pretty, I mean, the whatever it is small. And what's interesting is that I was watching a different part of the video, not the part that I was supposed to be watching. I was watching something else go up and down. Remember I said there was something going up and down? I was watching the wrong thing in the video. It was something else in the video. So
I was watching the same thing you were, Brian.
Were you? Yeah. So we weren't even watching the right thing. And I noticed this as I was reading the stories later. I read a preliminary of Brian's report. But this one that you have put up here, Ian, is much more thorough. They've gone through and they've given pictures, and I mean, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating, though, that everybody here looked at something that Fox News had no interest in whatsoever. And apparently the thing that they were trying to point out was less than memorable.
Yeah, I didn't get that. It's like the almost unnoticeable little thing in the corner is what we were supposed to be focused on, not the big thing moving around in the middle.
Right. It wasn't even centered, the thing that you were supposed to be seeing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much we really want to go into this. We'll put the link up and people can go and take a look at what Brian
It's just good to see the follow-up.
Here.
We reported on it, we talked about it, and here is the follow-up saying, look, we investigated it and showed exactly what is most likely going on.
Right. And I mean, Brian and Baxter go through and find the insect species for the area, and the idea that it couldn't be an insect is patently ridiculous. And they show the focusing that they did with the fly on the glass and everything to show just how easy it would be to make this look like the smudge could have easily been some sort of insect based on how they have the lens focused and everything. So,
well, and then they also went through and looked at all the bird species.
Right.
Yeah.
And all the different water birds.
Yeah, they did a lot of in-depth stuff looking at the wildlife out there, things like that, saying, okay, you're going to actually investigate what's going on and not just say, hey, look, UFO, yay. And, that's how it should be. It's disappointing that, the people that are paid to be investigators on TV don't seem to care about investigating. They just care about sitting there and smiling and looking pretty.
Right. And they did this. So in 1 hour, they found 6 flying species of insect. Any one of them could have been, or all of them could be what we're seeing.
Yeah.
The other thing that they talked about the video, the thing that we were watching going up and down, there was apparently a lot of that, looked like that it could easily be birds, going up and coming down. And the other thing that I think really bothered them was that this person wanted to remain anonymous. It's like, if that isn't suspicious, we see the same thing with other conspiracy theories, that they get fed by anonymous sources and people take this bogus information, run around like they've got something hot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of a thing.
And of course, another thing has been disproven, but it's not, every piece of evidence they bring up gets disproven, and it doesn't shake them at all.
No.
The believers, I mean.
No, not at all. This one is, they went out and they did a lot of the right things to try and pin down what it possibly could be. And the other thing is that where they said it was, the size and the speed that it had been used, the thing would have been huge. And moving at that speed, it really would have it would have been breaking the sound barrier, I would think, at the speed that it was going.
At noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, people would not have noticed it. It would have gotten a lot more attention if there really was something there.
Right. And the temperatures are best, for insects to be out at the time that they're filming is like awfully suspicious.
Yeah.
Now, this area where it was supposed to have taken off from, that's not by any chance a gated community entirely populated by extraterrestrials, is it?
No. Thanks, Ian. Thanks for being the groaner. That's so I didn't have to do it for once.
Ian's probably watched the show I'm talking about, so.
Yeah, well, we know the movie.
No, I'm actually talking about a TV show called The Neighbors.
Okay, well.
I've heard of it, haven't watched it, but.
All right.
I think
It's
it will be nice to
hilarious.
let Sean talk about birds now.
Yeah, talk about some birds.
I'm not the only one talking about birds, though. All right. So, essentially, the first article I put in here is about birds evolving faster in the Americas. And we've got bird species. We've essentially got new species emerging due to hybridization and other things, according to this article.
Wait, hybridization? I didn't see that in the article.
They were talking about the fact that they would expect the bird species they would expect them to actually diminish due to human impacts on natural habitats, but they were what is actually happening is that a new bird species is created every 700 years.
Right.
Even though the rate of extinction is higher, we've got new bird species emerging in the Americas far more fast than anybody would expect.
Right. So it's speciation, not hybridization.
They did talk about hybridization. I'm looking for where it is in the article.
Okay.
I know that we've got multiple we've got examples of duck goose hybrids that are joining flocks.
Okay, but are those kinds of hybrids are they sterile or not?
I don't think they're sterile. I think they are breeding.
Are they that closely related?
They're closely enough related to breed in the first place.
Okay.
I'm not finding hybridization in that article. Although I do think I saw something in your article about hybridization.
That might be true. I don't. Well, anyway, go ahead.
All right. Anyway, the other article that I popped up with here was about fairy wrens. Fairy wrens are vulnerable to predation by cuckoos, who will lay their eggs in the fairy wren nests. And essentially, the fairy wrens, it's weird because apparently they don't cue to odd-looking chicks. They don't visually cue to it, and they'll feed whatever's in the nest. And this has happened in other species as well. What the fairy wrens have done to avoid this, however, is they are pre-programming their young with a passcode, a password, while they're still in the shell. Before they hatch, they're pre-programming them with a passcode, and they have to use that passcode in order to get fed.
So they're trying to beat the what's the name of that bird? It's in the article.
Cuckoo.
The cuckoo, yeah.
Yeah, cuckoos don't know the passcode, and therefore they don't get fed. One of the things they pointed out in the article was that the cuckoo mother will come and check on her offspring in the nest where she laid the egg, and if she doesn't find her offspring, if her offspring has been removed, she'll destroy the nest. So they're actually leaving the cuckoo in the nest, just not feeding it. The other thing it notes
is this sound that any other species can make? I mean, is it individualized per bird, or is it just
it's individualized per bird? It's individualized per bird, and the mother fairy wren will actually teach other caregivers to her birds. It will teach them the same noise out of earshot of the chicks, so that they can know the passcode and feed the right chicks as well.
How does the cuckoo not pick this up?
I'm guessing that it's being programmed in before the cuckoo's egg is laid there.
So
you're asking how the cuckoo is not picking up the passcode, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's something they're passing on genetically. It's not something they're teaching the bird.
Well, this is a kind of a hard thing to really figure that out. This sounds more like, I don't think this is genetic evolution. This is a cultural thing. It's communication among the finches. It's interesting to call it evolution because I'm not sure if it necessarily qualifies. It is learning to use skills that they would theoretically already have. But it's definitely a taught thing if you look at it.
Well, but how are they teaching just their chicks and not the cuckoo when the cuckoo is right there?
Well, I guess it has to do with when the cuckoo's implanted. Or it could possibly have to do with the cuckoos don't understand what the mother bird's actually communicating.
I would guess it's the cuckoos. The cuckoos are not figuring out figuring out what the passcode is for.
One thing we don't know is exactly how animals communicate with one another. We can hear the sounds and stuff, but we don't know what any of it means, and we don't know how they interpret it.
Okay,
so
but
something here, however it is, the finches are interpreting it the proper way, and if the cuckoo eggs are in there at that time, the cuckoos aren't getting it.
So, but the scientists give no mechanism that they think by which this is happening?
I'm not seeing anything listed in the article.
The only mechanism they're saying is that they're basically teaching it to the eggs in late incubation.
But if
I'm
the
just a little
cuckoo's egg is
confused
there,
too how the cuckoos have evolved to be there as this kind of, their survival strategy is to be fed by other birds, right?
well, the cuckoo will lay their eggs in another bird's nest, and they've evolved to the point where the cuckoo egg looks very similar to the bird in which they're laying their eggs in the nest. So that's been going on for a while now.
So is the passcode stuff something new?
Yes, it's something
Passcode stuff
new.
is new.
Oh.
Yeah, this is something that's developed within them recently.
Right, but I still am confused about how they're passing this on.
Yeah, it doesn't really go into that, but there's something there, and it says that the passcode is different for every mother bird. So it's obvious, they know how to create a new one.
So it's not unique, or it is unique.
Emperor penguins use a specific song to identify their own offspring and their own mates. So this is not completely unknown in the bird world, but
no, and certainly I'm that's not what I have a problem with. What I want to know is how they're able to teach this just to their offspring and not the cuckoo.
I'm not saying anything that goes into details on that, but and that may be one thing we don't quite, it's going to be hard to really figure out. And once more, like I said, one of the problems with stuff like this is how, obviously there's communication going on among the birds, but how does that actually work? How do they, communicate? And that's definitely something we don't know.
Well, the other problem that we have with these kinds of studies is observer bias. Is this really happening the way that they think it is? That's why a mechanism would be nice.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting, like I say, to me, it's a bit hard to really call it evolution. It's progress.
Well, I think evolution is. I mean, that it's an adaptation that provides survival benefits. So I definitely don't have a problem calling it evolution.
Yeah, it's just that you don't know. We don't understand from the article exactly how it's happening.
Yeah, but there's a link to the entire study, so maybe I can get the whole thing. Look at that.
That would be cool.
So it was published in Current Biology. So, or is it just their archives? I don't know if I can get the whole study through here or not. Anyway, there's more information, so maybe my questions can be answered. So you added this late, and I haven't gotten a chance to take a look at it. So
okay.
But at least I can find where it's published. See, your first one there, I'm like, who the heck published this? And how are they justifying these changes? And your article isn't very clear about, how they know, how they're making these qualifications. And it says it's, published in, journal Nature Today. So it's published in a reputable journal, so. But I thought it was interesting enough. That's why I found the article that I did, that at least backs up that birds seem to be evolving faster than other species, and so they're adapting at a much faster rate. And they kind of felt that there was a couple of reasons for this, and of course, climate change comes down to one of the main ones. And I've heard this talked about on other shows, and I can't remember the article, but. There's birds that have to fly further for their food are having more problems than birds that fly shorter ranges. They can fly, so it's a matter of being able to fly at different times, so they're having to change their flight patterns based on global warming to what time their food is going to be available in these different places. And these articles don't really talk about that, but they do talk about some of the pressures that are pushing this evolution, and one of the reasons that it might be so quick. And definitely global climate change was one of those.
One of the reasons I think we get so many Canada geese here in the city is because they've got wonderfully lit areas that they can land in at night. And they've got areas that are safer from predators than more natural areas would be. I think I've told you guys before about we've got a Canada goose here at Belmar Park who, I don't know how common this is, but we've got a goose who's apparently resident year-round, and he will go up and he'll guide flocks in to the park. He'll guide flocks down to the lake.
My article indicates that North America, Asia, and South America are where they're seeing the greatest increase. So it was interesting to see what was going on with the birds there. But all these articles were fairly light on details, unfortunately. Mine was also published in the Journal of Nature.
Okay.
All right. Bigfoot DNA sequencing in upcoming genetic study. What do you guys think of this?
I think that I'd like to know where they got the Bigfoot DNA and how they confirmed it was from Bigfoot.
It seems to me that it might be premature speciation.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my first thoughts. At no point I see anything that confirmed they knew for a fact it was from a Sasquatch. They just are assuming it's, they were told that, so okay, I'll believe it.
So, a DNA study currently under peer review confirms the existence of a novel hominid hybrid. There's your hybrid right there, hybrid species. Commonly called Bigfoot or Sasquatch, living in North America. So they've apparently been gathering hair samples that they are looking at to find a particular genetic sequence, and they seem to think.
Wait, are these long hairs found out in the wilderness? Because those could easily be from Homo hippias.
Homo hippias. They have to be being found in forests. But there's
Homo hippias.
Right, but there's a problem because we have no fossil record of this particular species.
No, we have absolutely no remains that we've been able to. I like the fact that they've explained that. I like the fact in the article they've explained that Bigfoot or Sasquatch is highly intelligent and has been able to avoid us all this time, but that seems like a reach to me.
Right, that's what they always have. But the other thing is that so this article is talking about a study that's still in the peer review process, and the only reason it got that they had to come out and do this press statement because of another guy who put out some information on their Facebook page. So
yes,
it's interesting that it happened this way, because even if somebody did release this information, if it's my study, I think I'm going to go, hold on. we're not done with the peer review process, so it's too early to really speculate. Right? They have
definitely
a conclusion.
too early to put it on Facebook.
Right, exactly. So they have a conclusion that they think is right? They think that they have found DNA of Sasquatch, but we have yet to go through the peer review process and a publication process that shows that they were even remotely did their study to a reasonable level. We don't know the quality of their samples. They say they had 109 samples.
We also don't know that all the samples are from the same creatures. That's the other thing. One set of DNA says that matches modern Homo sapien. Well, that's probably human then. The other set of DNA is something else. Like, okay, prove to me that both those are from the exact same creature.
Well, they said that they indicated that they had about 20 samples that they sequenced, and
if you look at the second article actually breaks down what those types of DNA are.
Right.
Because if you look at, they broke it down, and he says it's actually quite likely that they are from different things that might not even be connected.
Right. You're talking about Steve Novella's article.
Right. I think so.
Yeah.
Where he breaks it down.
Right.
But he explains where that DNA would probably have come from, and straight out says, well, this is probably from hair, while the other DNA is probably from another sample. So, right there, once more, prove they are from the same creature if you're trying to make this weird assumption.
Well, the other thing is that they have 20 sequenced whole genomes here.
Yeah.
And do all the genomes do they all match? Can they, or at least within a species, can they show that? it seems to me that there's a lot of opportunity for contamination if you're collecting samples out in the wilderness somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things is you got to remember that this is the same evidence that we use to show that that there is I think it's snow leopards somewhere in Pakistan by collecting hair samples and sequencing the DNA and tracing those back. But the key difference there is that we already had known good samples of DNA from snow leopards.
Right.
And I could be not remembering that exactly. But so this technique has been used to find existing groups of animals that we're not seeing on a regular basis. But
we have a fossil record of snow leopards.
Exactly, right? And we
I've
know
seen
that
it's at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. They have a snow leopard there.
Yes. And so we know that creature exists. We have known good samples of DNA from it. They're getting samples for a creature that we don't have any known good samples to compare it against.
Yeah.
And now I'm not an expert on this, but I think that is a problem.
Agreed.
Because how are they sure what they're getting? Even when you go out and you get like old fossils from, not fossils because you couldn't get DNA out of those, but when you're doing a fossil record of even like the mammoth, they were sequencing that DNA, right? They were pretty sure they had a mammoth because they had a whole, mammoth to work from.
Yeah.
Here they have nothing to work from, and so it seems to me that it's complete speculation. Even if, let's say that they do have a unique DNA structure.
That doesn't mean it's a Sasquatch.
It doesn't mean it's a Sasquatch. Yeah, and they can probably be pretty sure that it's an ape of some sort. I guess.
Now I'm going to blow your mind here.
Are you?
I'm going to blow your mind. Now, my understanding is that the people who released this article believe that it's Bigfoot.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Therefore, their peers would also believe that it's Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Let me finish. Their peers believe it's Bigfoot. And their peers are probably all their friends on Facebook. So Facebook is the peer review process in this case.
Okay, I hope that
like
you are wrong.
For that, but
I hope that you are wrong. But if that is the case, it's going to make it hard to get it published in a reasonable journal.
Wrong. It's already published. It's on Facebook.
No, but not in a reasonable journal. Not in a journal with any credibility. It's not published in Nature.
Matt does have a point. Public opinion right now suggests that Facebook knows what they're talking about at all things.
but
although I do love how the conclusion that they come to, due to the fact that we now know, these things are so human-like. Governments at all levels must recognize them as an indigenous people and immediately protect their human and constitutional rights against those who would see in their physical and cultural differences a license to hunt, trap, or kill them. So
Bigfoot
that just is so. It's like, okay, so a group of creatures that are human-like, we now have to add into the Constitution, even though we have no proof they exist outside of this questionable DNA evidence.
Right.
So here's another theory based upon this questionable DNA evidence and stuff we were talking about earlier. My theory is that North American birds are evolving into Sasquatch.
They're evolving into a primate.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, you can sit down now. Thank you.
Hey, for crows, that would only be a slight step down in intelligence. From crow to primate, that would only be a slight step down.
Okay, so here's the thing: is that back to the publication. They have to get this published for it to be even really looked at by the scientific community, right? And for it to get a wide enough community, they need to publish it in a journal like Nature or someplace like that is reputable. And if they can't get accepted to a journal like that, it's not going to get looked at. And they don't have to convince the people on Facebook. They have to convince the scientific community ultimately. Who cares what those people if everybody on Facebook believes it, it does not matter. They have to convince reputable biologists that this is the case, not me and you. And so if you're right and the peer review process is just all their friends, and it could very well be, it's not going to go any further than that. It's dead at that point, I would think. The other problem that they have is the way that they show that this primate mated with humans, and then we're able to continue to have offspring. Probably not. Probably any sort of child that would have been birthed through that union would be sterile. So there would be no population to even look for.
But if it mated with humans and they were able to breed true, chances are they would play banjos. I'm just saying.
Yeah. All right. Bigfoot DNA. Boo. But if they get it, I mean, they can convince the scientific community. Good for them. You know, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Then we'd have some place to start looking.
Yeah. Kimberly, you going to chime in on Bigfoot DNA?
There really doesn't seem to be too much to say. I mean, and they're going to come back with, this DNA was completely uncodable because it's like, pieces of a rug that they put in as evidence of Bigfoot because it's all fake. So.
Well, yeah, I don't, I'm not claiming by any means that they have faked the evidence that they have, but I don't know how they would have prevented contamination and how they're weeding out that possibility.
You're saying that might have been pieces of a rug, Kimberly?
I've seen stuff like that before in some of this Bigfoot stuff where they're just like, it's not any kind of DNA we know of. And it turns out it's true. When you subject the sample to a DNA test, it comes up as not of this world.
Right.
Because it's not biological.
And it's come back as bison a lot,
turned out to
too.
be a piece of rug.
Bison hair is often.
Well, now here's another theory. Maybe the shag rug industry has been getting by for years on hunting Bigfoots.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
And, well, in that case, we definitely need to give them their constitutional rights. We can get by on tile floor. In fact, I prefer it.
You do?
I do.
You want tile in your bedroom?
I actually wouldn't mind at this point, considering the condition of the rug.
Cold tile in the middle of the night when you gotta get up and go to the bathroom. And tile
Nietzsche
all
says
the
what
way
doesn't destroy me
to the
must be
bathroom.
missed.
Oh.
I'm sorry, makes me stronger. What doesn't destroy me makes me stronger.
You're a silly, silly man. And it echoes too much. No good for recording. All right. Well, we killed that one too. We have slayed these articles. So, what is your guys' opinion of the Salvation Army prior to my article spree?
Never really thought much of it.
I've been to their thrift stores. Sometimes they have good stuff. They ring bells outside Walmart. It's kind of annoying.
Very. They are the source of bigotry that just keeps on giving. They are a huge anti-gay church. Basically, they are run by a Christian church whose doctrine believes that gays should die. So of course, right now they're out in force. I mean, they're pretty much everywhere. You go, and I didn't realize just how bad it was until I started going through these articles. And in fact, there is one that gives an excellent timeline.
Yep, I did look through that.
Where's my timeline? There it is, gay timeline. So, it started out, 85? That was boring.
What, that timeline you had?
No, the timeline's
like
good. The
1800s.
first one's boring. It's not, yeah, it seems like,
1865. Former Methodist minister William Booth founds the Salvation Army in London, giving his religious mission a military structure and trappings, including its own flag, military-style uniforms, hymns, ranks, and firearms. No, sorry, just hymns and ranks, no firearms.
Hymns, ranks.
1880. The Salvation Army sets up shop in the U.S., Australia, and Ireland, also known as the Invasion. 1986. See, they were quiet for a long time. This is conspiracy. 1986, the Salvation Army collects signatures for a petition to stop the New Zealand legislature from decriminalizing homosexuality. The Homosexual Law Reform Act passes anyway. May 1st, 2001, an internal document from the Salvation Army says the charity has a firm commitment from the Bush administration for a national regulation shielding it and other religious charities from state and city laws barring discrimination against gays and lesbians. The Salvation Army never discriminates in who it serves, says senior official George Hood, but being forced to hire gays really begins to chew away at the theological fabric of who we are. July 11th, 2001. The Bush administration turns down the Salvation Army's request. Well, so much for our firm commitment.
And that's surprising, just given Bush's, he does all that faith-based stuff, and there are carve-outs of all these different types of laws as to who can still discriminate based on religious views. So I'm really interested. I wish they went into more detail on this July 11th.
Yeah. Well, the next one is interesting.
2004, the Salvation Army threatens to leave New York City if Mayor Michael Bloomberg enforces a new ordinance requiring all groups with city contracts to offer benefits to the same-sex partners of employees. Bloomberg, who opposed the ordinance, doesn't enforce it. So apparently they didn't leave New York City. February 14, 2006, Valentine's Day. The New York State Court of Appeal upholds Bloomberg's right to ignore the ordinance, leaving future enforcement decisions to the discretion of whoever is mayor.
What a terrible thing to do. I mean, to pass a law like that, that's an anti-discrimination law, and then just let everybody ignore it. Well, I don't understand, and here's what I wish there was more here, because I want to know why the courts upheld Bloomberg's right to ignore this legislation that passed. If that's the case, and a governor can just ignore whatever legislation they want to, man, can you imagine? Hey, they just passed that gun law. Yeah, you know what though? We're just going to ignore it.
Mm-hmm. July 2006, the New Zealand branch of the Salvation Army apologizes over any remaining hurt from its prominent role in trying to stymie the Homosexual Law Reform Act 20 years earlier. So, boy, they let that one fester for a while.
Yeah, they did.
November 21st, 2011, Bill Browning at the Billerico Project promotes a drive encouraging gay rights supporters to give their holiday donations to other charities that don't actively discriminate against the LGBT community. And then here we get to 2012, where the Australian Salvation Army spokesman basically goes on the radio saying that practicing homosexuals deserve to die. And then the retraction 2 days later said it's not referring to physical death, nor is it specifically targeted at homosexual behavior.
Right, they said what they meant was spiritual death. It's like, you start to look at their doctrine, and it's like, so they're trying to say what's politically correct, right? But let's face it, if you look through their literature, they think homosexuality is abhorrent, a sin, and those people should be put to death. That's what they believe.
But, Brian, it would be inconsistent with Christian teaching to call for anyone to be put to death except by stoning. I'm sorry, I added that last part.
Yeah, well, but I mean, isn't that just the case? It's like, yes, and abortion is bad. Well, unless you think that your spouse has been unfaithful, then you can take her to the priest who will give her some poison. So, I mean, it's yeah.
I'm actually far more interested in this article below this. It says, "Is your cat a mass murderer?"
There was another one too that
I don't have a cat, but
that's probably because of Toxoplasma gondii.
No, actually, they're predators to all kinds of smaller creatures, consuming an average of 2.1 per week.
All right. So, I mean, if you look through the literature from the Salvation Army, and in the Wikipedia one here, there's a set of 11 beliefs. We believe that the scriptures of the Old Testament and New Testament were inspired by God, and our only contribution to divinic rules of Christianity, faith, and practice. And in more in depth in their literature, they go on to specify, how they feel about gays. And so on this radio show, they had the guy on after his apology and retraction, and they asked him about this. It's like, how can you, as a compassionate human being, accept these doctrines? And it's just like, well, but those are the doctrines of our church. I mean, he totally couldn't answer the question beyond that. This is what the church says. And in as much as he was trying to, take the heat off of what he had said earlier. I mean, it's more bigotry. And so the Salvation Army is a bunch of bigots and should be boycotted, and you should not be giving your money to them. Instead, you should be giving your money through Atheists for Humanity, and I went and gave money to the Red Cross today through them. So there are good places to give your money. The Salvation Army just isn't one of them. But if you look at this Huffington Post article, this is really awesome. Where's the Huffington Post one? They have on here a voucher that you can give to the Salvation Army. So you can print these out and keep them with you. And put these in their little things. And it's Mac, you want to read the voucher?
It says, this holiday season, at the top it says voucher. It has a picture of a kettle and a present on it. This holiday season, I am supporting organizations that do not discriminate in any way against people based upon sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other reason. I will not, in capital letters, donate to the Salvation Army, and will instead give to other charities until the Salvation Army stops discriminating against the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community in hiring, firing, and promotion, and in the provision of benefits. And in quotes down below in italics, it says, George Hood, a senior official with the Salvation Army, said the group never discriminates in delivering its services, but on the question of hiring gay employees, it really begins to chew away at the theological fabric of who we are. Washington Post's 7/10/2001.
So, I mean, they're saying all the right words, but I don't believe them. I think that they try to discriminate who they're giving this stuff to as much as possible. I don't have any evidence of that, but I imagine that we could prove it.
Then your thought is based upon supposition and opinion.
Yes, it is. Based on everything else that they have said, that's how I feel.
Yep.
So anyway, I like this. There's a voucher that you can put into their little slot. I don't think it'll make that much difference to them, but at least, you can put something in the kettle and feel good about it.
Yeah, I was going to mention the vouchers. I had missed this article before because I got that in an email years ago, and I always meant to print them out because it has been a really long time since I've given any money to the Salvation Army. There were another one though where for years I just never made the connection, salvation, like with the Christianity
right.
part. I just kind of assumed that they were helping people, and that was kind of all of it. And it was kind of, a little distressing because they are so prevalent, and they put this nice face on things. They, when you go by them and they're ringing the bell and they got the Santa Claus hat on, I don't know. I always feel a little bad not putting anything in there, but I have heard for years about these practices and these things that they say, and like you say, they're very upfront about it. They're not trying to hide it or anything.
Kimberly, make a stone of your heart and walk past them with a smile.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I've done.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to print out some vouchers and hand them out. I think that this is a great idea.
Yeah. And especially to get the bell ringers to read it. Because, again, I don't think those are the bad people. Those are people who honestly just want to help and, who are contributing to what they think is good stuff. I'm sure some of them, like any group would be like, yeah, damn straight, we don't want any gays here. But I would bet a lot of them would be very surprised to find out what their group was involved in.
Well, and I bet a lot of them are actually probably gay.
Well, yeah, maybe. If they are, they're not out gays because they haven't told their employer, At least.
Don't ask, don't ring.
Yeah. But I'm not suggesting that you harass the people ringing the bell. I mean, that's the last thing we want to do.
No, but giving them a voucher and asking them to read it is not harassment.
Well, I just said, you put the voucher in there and, if they get enough of these vouchers coming back to them, they might get the idea. What if the guy takes back a kettle and all he has is, 100 vouchers saying that they won't give him money?
Well, if that happens, what they do is they put the guy up against the wall and they, they don't have a firing squad, but they throw bells at him.
I don't know what the practice is if you don't make quota.
I doubt there's a quota. I don't know how they would
spread the rumor that
all
it's
right.
Some vicious thing, but I have no idea.
Yeah, if they don't make the quota, they get a whipping.
They get a night in the box.
Night in the box. That's right. They get the hose.
It gets its quota of money, or else it gets the hose.
All right, Ian. Tell us about Jesse Ventura's latest adventure.
Yes.
Well, apparently the video I linked to is down, but did everyone get to watch it?
I did.
No, I did not.
our wrestler turned turned governor, now turned conspiracy theorist TV show host.
Yeah, but he's always been into conspiracy theories. So, I mean, Jesse Ventura, I mean, he's...
I love to hear that man speak.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
I knew the existence of the show. I hadn't really paid any attention or watched it. But this one, I saw LinkedIn, decided to watch it, and was just like, wow, this is bad. But the episode is Time Travel Secrets. And in it, he reveals a government program, which I actually believe existed, that was trying to break the laws of physics and be able to do time travel and stuff.
Yeah, there was a couple of projects. There was Project Pegasus, and there was another one, Project...
Well, we know the government has wasted huge amounts of money on pseudoscience research, with astral projection and crap like that. We know that happened. There's no doubt our government's been dumb. Straight out.
Ian,
dumb.
Are you lumping time travel in with pseudoscience? Because I will remind you what your favorite show is.
It doesn't matter. I know what science fiction goes for. I don't claim that the majority of the stuff I watch on science fiction is real science. But so, anyways, he goes to the Project Pegasus stuff, and then he finds actual people that were there. And what I loved is apparently the way they do time travel is you sit naked in a chair while they bombard you with radiation.
Well, I don't know. That was a little flaky.
Well, no, actually, no. That actually fits in with because in Terminator they came back naked.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I was looking, it's like, okay, the nudity thing. What does that have to do with it?
So at least they based it on some good science fiction.
Crap. Yeah, I had notes on this, and now I can't find my notes.
Yeah, but then apparently one guy got sent back in time to meet George Washington, and the whole goal was to go up to George Washington and say, "Hey, Mr. Washington, you're going to win." And it's like, why the hell would we waste our time telling George Washington he's going to win?
Well, because they told him specifically but only if you won a certain battle. I forget which battle it was, that he had to win that battle.
Now, knowing science fiction the way I do, there's one huge gap in logic. No one from now would want to send anyone back in time to alter things. Because if they were to say, push George Washington into a different battle, different people would die. That's 100% logical. If you were to send someone back to actually try and affect a battle back then, different people would die. What does that mean? Well, that means there's a fairly good chance a lot of people who are living now would never have been born.
It means that sound and the thunder, it all happens.
Yeah. So to me, there's a huge logic gap in sending anyone back to affect stuff like that, because you could actually end up making him fail. But like I said, this one guy, apparently his job was to go to George Washington and tell him, if you follow these battle plans, you'll win the war. It's like, well, we already won the war. Why are we interfering here? I didn't understand.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. Why go back and even get involved in that? But it was... So they run around and they finally get this guy's last name. And what was his last name? And they kept just saying it.
Don't remember.
And it was,
are you talking about the kid that supposedly is in the picture?
Right, exactly. And
so the one picture that is out there, it's a historic picture. It's from the Gettysburg Address. If you look, you'll find, magnify it properly, you can actually find Abraham Lincoln in it. And this one guy is claiming he is this individual that is kind of. I'm looking at the picture right now. We have a link to it. In the picture, you have a guy in the corner, a group of about 4 guys almost centered, and then one guy kind of center-wise standing off on his own to the side. And then you have the big crowd behind him, basically.
Okay.
Well, this guy's claiming he's the kid standing off to the side. And I didn't understand why he was even there, but he's claiming that's him, and he even said that they've done some stuff and shown that his face is the same. I mean, this kid is out of focus. You can't tell anything about his head at all. But apparently they can photo analyze. So yeah, this picture of you at that age is about the same shape head-wise as the kid in the photo. And then he claims he's holding a cylinder, which I don't see. What they show as a cylinder to me looks like an undershirt kind of peeking through the coat. But he claims he was holding some sort of cylinder that I forget what the point of that was.
Yeah, but Montauk is the other project.
Oh yeah.
So they find a couple of guys, and every guy they find leads to another guy, right? The way that they've set up the chain is fabulous. But one of my favorite ones, they find out from this other guy that this guy is making these time travel devices, and it's a hyperdimensional resonator made by Stephen L. Gibbs.
I think the word you're looking for is hyperdimensional quantum tunneling resonator.
Well, that might be the case.
Because I think it sounds better if you add quantum tunneling to it.
And I'm surprised that they didn't add quantum to the name.
Yeah.
But they called it
Pseudoscience always sounds better with quantum.
Yeah, they called it an HDR. And so they're supposed to take this device and they have to find an energy vortex. And supposedly, is it the GM that's the pyramid in Vegas? Is built on top of an energy vortex. So they go to the GM and they get a hotel room, and this one guy is gonna come and show them how it works. And he's like, oh, you can't use that device. That device is a modified radiomics machine. And he says it'll put out so much electromagnetic radiation, and it's gonna alter your chakras and alter your he says it's no good. You can't do it. It's just the thing is dangerous. And it's all this overhyped, he's like, but he says, I was part of Project Montauk, and we went back in time, and he says, I can show you how we go back in time. And he explains to them what they're gonna do, and basically it's like, a guided technique, and he's like, well, wait, what's the difference between what you're telling me we're gonna do in hypnotherapy? And he says, well, in hypnotherapy, you're being guided, and I'm gonna show you how to guide yourself. And then he sits and does it,
so
and he starts
self-hypnosis?
Well, yeah, exactly, right? It's except for he sits down and he's guiding him through it. It is totally, past life regression types of hypnosis that they're using to get this information. And the guy just gets so frustrated. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, well, you didn't even finish the program. He's like, this isn't going to work. He's, and so he storms out, and Jesse Ventura's, I think, done at this point with the whole thing. Him getting frustrated with these guys is the best part of the show, because he's constantly just like, you gotta be kidding me. This is ridiculous. But the way that the whole show is shot, over dramatic, with these big intense, it's. But the one thing that I thought was interesting at the end of the show, I guess the other thing was Palago, Adrian Palago is the guy that they find, and I'm probably saying that right. And what he describes is the Stargate from Stargate Atlantis. He perfectly describes this shimmering thing, and I mean, it's so funny. It's like, really? This man has been watching too much TV. So, and he describes it, and everything he describes is Stargate. It's, it's Stargate SG-1.
Right.
It was so funny to listen to him talk, and,
Well, the things I love is this is actually the second time I've heard a link of Obama being a teleporter. I feel Wells. I heard something. I'd seen another thing like this where they were talking about Obama being part of a secret society a secret experiment thing, and he could teleport. And here it is again saying, oh, well, Obama was part of it. He was one of the kids in it. He can teleport and travel through time as well.
Right, except I also
love go ahead.
I was going to say, this thing that Adrian described was not, it was actually opening up a hole in the fabric of space, right, in space-time. So it wasn't actually transporting.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Yeah, the part I'm talking about, apparently Obama, our president, is a teleporter. He can teleport himself. It's the second time I've heard references to it. And also, all these last four presidents were involved in this somehow. Both Bushes, Clinton, and Obama. And I'm like, okay, well, if these guys were set up, because the claim is that they were already set up to become president. I'm like, okay, let's back that claim up. So you must know who the next few presidents are going to be as well. Why don't you write those down, put them in an envelope? I love claims like that because, there's an easy way to prove whether or not you know what you're talking about.
Damn you, teleporting George Bush.
Yeah. So that was the whole thing was weird that basically they went and told these presidents you're going to become president, It's like, okay.
This really, it was so much nonsense left and right.
Right, but at the end of it, the thing that Jesse Ventura says, he doesn't believe in time travel at the end of this. He's like, but he believes that Adrian believes that he went back in time. And he says he also believes that he was part of some sort of kind of government experiment and that they did something to him and that these might be implanted memories. And that seems perfectly likely based on what we saw of Project Montauk, is that it looks like they were doing hypnosis, and they could have easily been implanting memories in these people. Yeah. The whole test could have been, can we implant a memory? Can we brainwash these people into thinking that they did this thing? So so
if this guy did go back in time to Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, what was the purpose of going back there?
I don't know.
And they never really get. He had a cylinder. I forget what the cylinder was about, but he claims he was holding a cylinder.
Yeah,
and in the cylinder was a letter to be opened on the night at Ford Theater with one word on it: duck.
Maybe if he had flashed some gang signs at the camera, we could have gone, look at that.
Some of the stuff people will believe. Well, of course, that kind of goes into our next one. To finish up tonight, I found this really amusing short little article. This woman in Florida apparently was driving 100 miles an hour through a 30 miles an hour zone. Was driving fairly recklessly beyond that. In fact, the police tried to pull her over. I believe she dumped a couple mediums and finally hit a curb. Yeah, her curb swerved across two southbound lanes, almost hitting the curb before it came to a halt. Apparently they asked how fast, if she knew how fast she was going, and said yes, 100 miles an hour. And then apparently she claimed the reason she was doing it because she was letting the Lord's Spirit guide her. That's also why she was honking her horn. She apparently was blowing her horn because the Lord was telling her to do it. Needless to say, they arrested her and decided that, whether or not God told you to do it, that still was breaking the laws. Guess what?
Yeah.
So she was a $375 bail. And apparently, this is the interesting thing. In addition to reckless driving, she's charged with violation for probation because apparently she had left the scene of an accident. So it's like...
Because God told her?
All right. That could be it.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical here. Simply because it's the Daily Mail.
The Daily Fail?
But there are other posts of the article as well.
Yeah.
The only problem is that they come from places like HuffPost, Examiner.com, RawStory.com. So, I'm wondering if this is an urban legend gone wild.
Well, this one seems like it'd be easy enough to pin down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it. It could very well. But you know what? I mean, these kinds of God maybe do it types of things, and this one may not be sincere, but I just finished Under the Banner of Heaven. Have any of you read that book?
No.
I have not. I've wanted to.
Yeah, it was a good read, and it basically, it's talking about some Mormon fundamentalists who killed their brother's wife. Basically, she was in the way, but they justified it because they got a revelation from God. And so the guy went and did it, and he admitted that he did it. He told them exactly what he did, but he never admitted any wrongdoing because he had a revelation from God. That's what he was supposed to do. So these kinds of things, this one is of course silly, but there is a much fuller history here of these kinds of claims that have done a lot of harm.
Yeah.
And this could have done a lot of harm. 130 mile an hour zone, trying to get away, and after causing an accident. That's pretty. They could have hit children, other people. It
was crazy to decide. Oh, well, God had me do it. It's like, wait a moment.
Yeah, and this one doesn't sound too sincere to me. But in that book, those guys are completely sincere about the revelations.
Well, the first thought to me was, I hope they, did some check to make sure she wasn't on anything, because your first thought of that is, well, she might have been hearing God. Of course, after you trip on a couple things of acid, you have no idea how often you hear God.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Okay, but I found a source on WPTV.com, which is probably a little bit more. I'm not sure where WPTV is, but
I found it on MSN as well.
Okay.
It's all over the place. It's
apparently this is her 15 minutes.
Yeah. What 15 minutes she gets? Not necessarily 15
She will
minutes
forever be known as the God Made Me Speed lady.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever. You know, this kind of, I mean, there's a problem here when we have people, you know, always, if it was an actual excuse to say, well, God told me to do it, right? I mean, but it doesn't fly. And so, yeah, it's funny, but if this did happen, it will be dealt with.
The police weren't about to say, oh, yeah, that's a good excuse. Like, no, sorry, that doesn't, work. You're coming with us.
I love one of the comments down below on the Daily Mail where it says, the judge sentences her to 10 years and said, God made me do that, too.
Yeah, right.
It does bring up those ethical questions, though, that I think people have brought up before. If all morality is, comes straight from God and couldn't have any other source, then if you did have a legitimate, communication channel with him, and he did say, 100 miles an hour in a 30 zone is fine, it's not just fine, it's morally correct. So, I don't doubt that there's lots of people handing out lots of BS lines, but so I don't doubt the authenticity of the article, but it is just ridiculous what people will believe and say and use as excuses.
Yeah, I don't know if this person is really sincere, but there are people who say this stuff sincerely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why this pops up as something to talk about. Whether or not she was sincere, it's an excuse being used by people either because they really believe God screwed him, in which case they're drugged out or have some imbalance, or because they're trying to come up with an excuse as to why they did what they did.
Yeah, well, this one looks like she was trying to get out of something.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt the sincerity. If it was a hit-and-run accident and she's doing 130, I mean, come on.
Well, no, she didn't do a hit-and-run. She left the scene of a hit-and-run before. She was on probation.
Oh, this wasn't the same incident.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, she was on probation for the prior incident, which makes me wonder what she was fleeing this time.
Yeah. You get the impression she's probably just a really messed up driver
Yeah,
to begin with. It's something, does stupid things and shouldn't be allowed in her car.
I don't. But I mean, we're laughing about this. Remember the woman who drowned her kids because God told her to do it?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I saw Dr. Phil a few years back where this guy was saying God told him to molest his granddaughter, and that was his excuse. Like God was telling me to do it. Like, whoa, yeah, that's going a bit too far.
Right, but when you have church doctrine that's how we got it in the first place, is it so unreasonable? I mean, for people to say that kind of stuff? I mean, we can't think that they're crazy for doing this stuff.
We all, to some extent, have voices in our head, and part of understanding reality is to understand most of the voices are just thoughts. There are times where you want to strangle your kid. They can be that frustrating, but you have to understand that's just your inner thought from frustration and stress. It's
right.
Not really what you want. But if you're, something's not working right, I can very much see those inner thoughts. Oh, that's a sign from a higher power that I believe in.
Right, but we have religious doctrine that says that that's an acceptable way to get revelation.
Yeah, and that's, that is what messes up. That's what causes people not to be able to distinguish reality from, the belief. And once you don't quite get where those lines are, you're going to start not quite understanding that, yeah, you can have passing thoughts that are a bit wrong. Like I said, I've had days where I wanted to strangle my kids. I'll admit that. I love them, but they can get on my nerves. But at no point have I thought, oh yeah, that's a divine message telling me I have to. It's just me being stressed out and frustrated.
Right.
Let me calm down and, they're perfect again.
Right, but was the woman who drowned her kids, what was she saying?
Yeah, that's the thing. And I honestly, most of the people who go through with it, I don't think you can call that sane.
Well, are you sure? I mean, look at the guy who I mean, in Under the Banner of Heaven, he killed his he killed his brother's wife and child because God told him to do it. Yeah. They went through a huge process of trying to decide whether he was clinically sane or not, and they ultimately came back to, well, if we decide that I mean, if we think this person is not in the right mind, is insane, what is that saying about all of these religious doctrines? And so they had a quandary there because what kind of precedent are they setting?
Well, a lot of religions, I think, encourage it because they want you to believe that, what you hear in your head is, God trying to speak to you and such. Yeah. And if these people are mentally unstable, that's not what you want them to believe.
Do you want anybody to believe, to be doing that in the first place? Mentally unstable or not?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't everybody be thinking about their actions and the repercussions before they go and do them? But we know that the brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I think we're missing a wonderful opportunity for some brand new bumper stickers.
Are we?
God is my co-pilot and he's stepping on the accelerator.
Yeah.
Please help me. Please help me.
Put that on the back of your Toyota. All right. Anything else, guys?
No.
That's all I've got.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. It's been lovely. It's amazing sometimes.
Fun.
I didn't mention, by the way, Brian, we had a special guest on the podcast tonight. Aldo's here in the room with me.
Oh.
She chimed in at one point.
Aldo was pretty good for the most part then. All right. Well, say goodnight, everybody.
Yeah, Blue is the chatterbox. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Amateur Skeptics Podcast. For more information about the Amateur Skeptics, go to amateurskeptics.com. To send us feedback, suggestions, or big flaming insults, feel free to contact us at WTF@amateurskeptics.com. Other contact information can be found on our website.
You can leave a voicemail for the Amateur Skeptics Podcast at 720-295-7785. Music for this podcast was provided by OFM. To find out more about OFM, go to myspace.com/OFMHQ. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons, No Derivatives 3.5 license. Thank you for listening to the Amateur Skeptics Podcast.
Amateur Skeptics website, Facebook, and podcast album art is provided by and copyright Shadow Knight Digital Portraiture. Larger prints or custom pieces are available upon request.